So which is the best and worst episode of AOT Season 3?
Shut up and sit down.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy Dude Reviews and heavy spoilers for Attack on Titan Season 3, you have been warned. Season 3 absolutely elevated the story and it just made AOT so much more grand and impressive. What is the best and worst episode of Season 3? Well, all the episodes are pretty damn good. I mean, there isn't a single bad episode. They are all 9 out of 10s. This is all just my opinion, so don't take it to heart, and there will be spoilers of course, so without further ado, let's just jump into this. Coming at last place on number 22, Trust. Yeah, the reason why Trust is at number 22 is just, my gosh, this episode is a bore. I mean, apart from the scenes with Hitch and Marla being recruited by Captain Levi's squad, the funny moment between Jean and Hitch, this episode just dragged on for me. It was pretty damn forgettable and just kind of a bore. That's about it. Number 21, Old Story. This episode mainly starts off with a story recounting her past and her relationship with her mother, and it's just so damn heartbreaking how Historia's mom never cared about her, how the last words she said was that I wish I had the strength to kill this child, and then she just died like that. I mean, my gosh, talk about scarring a little kid. Owen also has a pretty tragic past involving his father, him asking a question to his dad and then his dad telling him the answer and that got him killed. And these two blondes had a pretty sad past. I think in some way they both feel responsible for what happened to their parents in a way. Some other really nice moments was of Harness and Hanji in the jail cell, him breaking down realizing he betrayed the king and foreshadowing to Hanji that the role he plays will only just be replaced by another and this vicious cycle will continue and continue. This episode also just makes you wonder like how shocking is this secret that they're hiding about the Titans, that they would just kill innocent civilians just to protect the secrets of the walls. Smoke Signal. This episode pretty much sets up the dramatic events of the Uprising arc with Pasternak's death and the scouts being on the run. I also love how it develops Eren and Historia's friendship in a way. How for the first time in the entire show, Historia's actually being more or less her genuine true self. Love the interactions and conversations with the Squad Levi characters. How it just harkens back to season 1 days. Love a lot of the comedic scenes, particularly the one with Jean and Armin, even though I did feel bad for Armin in that situation. And then it just ends with Kenny the Ripper just wreaking havoc on Levi's squad. And damn, that animation of him just walking up the stairs with his guns, my gosh, it was pretty hype and badass. Number 19. Pain. My gosh, I don't think Attack on Titan's animation has ever looked quite so good ever since this episode. I mean, my gosh, the fluidity, the dynamic character poses. Good gravy, Wit Studio went all out with this sequence. But as well as that, it had some pretty interesting character depths with Armin realizing that he's not a good person after shooting that girl, and Levi being a little bit of a douche but having a good point that if Armin didn't do it then Jean would be dead. You also get that awesome reveal towards the end of the episode that the Race family are the true heirs to the throne. Gosh, I absolutely love Kenny and Levi's interaction, banter back and forth throughout the entire episode. I also found this episode kind of funny with Pasternak's reaction to Hanji and Levi pretending to torture Nick's friend and him just absolutely looking mortified by all this. At number 18 we have the town where it all began. I like how this episode gives us an explanation as to why Eren has had this desire to achieve freedom and eradicate any enemies that stand in his way when he flashbacks to when Armin showed him the Book of the Outside World for the first time. I also love the eerie pacing of this episode where it feels like something is definitely off with the enemies not actually being there at the time. We also truly get to see how smart and intelligent and how amazing Armin Arlet is, as he's able to determine whether the enemies are hidden inside the walls or not, and just Owen absolutely trusting and having strong faith in Armin. I also love some of the ODM gear sequences of Levi and the scouts flying up across the wall and Eren, Spider-Man flip over the wall and turning into the Titan. That's such an iconic scene right there. And then Levi running and charging at Reiner, and then the Beast Titan activating all the pure Titans behind him was just such a beautiful sequence. At number 17 we have Thunderspheres. This episode dives deep into Owen's mind, and him talking about him admitting to himself that he was a little bit selfish in using the scouts to try and find more truth about the Titans so that he can try and prove his father's theory in a way. Just shows you how damn human this dude is, even though he does come across pretty damn stoic at times. Then we have Eren versus Reiner version 2, and it's not as epic as the first battle that they had in season 2. Some of the animation sequences do look a little bit off here and there, but the art's more or less pretty damn beautiful to look at. And I love how it's Jean, Connie, Mikasa, and Sasha who are the ones to take him down, just bombing him with the Thunderspheres. Number 16, we have Sin. Yeah, when I first read this episode in the chapter of the manga, I was pretty damn shocked by the reveal that Grisha was actually dead all along and that Eren had eaten him and he was the one who murdered Historia's family. At the time, it just showed you a completely different side of Grisha Yeager, and he just seemed like a completely different person in this whole flashback sequence. Historia's reaction to finding out that she had a sister who loved her all along and then finding out that she died. I mean, man, girl must have gone through a whole series of emotions. But apart from all that, this episode was more or less very exposition-y, with some lore dump on the Ackerman clan and all that lovely jazz. Number 15, we got Outside the Walls of Orid District. While this episode is more or less dialogue heavy with a little bit of action here and there, I do like the dialogue and interaction with Historia explaining to Eren that there's a better way than to sacrifice himself, giving him a little bit more confidence and faith in himself. And this was definitely one of Eren's more lowest episode, and even Levi feels kind of bad for Eren, saying that he feels bad for asking him to make a decision every single time. And I don't know how Historia is able to stay sane after all these massive revelations, hearing about her sister, to the possibility of eating Eren, to the scouts having to kill her dad. I mean, my gosh, she's pretty damn strong, being able to do what needs to be done in a way. That is our Queen Historia for you. And number 14, we have The Basement. I mean, my gosh, did they have to stretch this episode? Well, yeah, they did. It was a great way to build up tension and to really make the payoff feel even more worthwhile in a way. I don't know why, but the moment when Eren put the key into the door and it didn't fit, my heart sort of sank. And then they find books, and I love how Mikasa puts her gentle, loving hand on Eren as they both open the books together, as they started this journey together and they're going to end it together. Not surprised by this big reveal of people living outside the world in harmony. It was a bit obvious in a way with Reiner and Bertel and Annie, but it was definitely the next episode following this one that really put the show into a whole new direction. And that is number 13, That Day. Now, when I first read this in the manga, not gonna lie, I had to reread this chapter like 9 or 10 times just because of the sheer amount of exposition and lore dump that was poured into this one chapter. I mean, my gosh, I wasn't even too sure how to feel about it for a long time, just because of the sheer amount of information that we were getting in this chapter. But this chapter truly made you absolutely care and feel sorry for Grisha Yeager, his sister being killed and eaten by dogs, but to be betrayed by his own son of all people. That was just such a gut-punching reveal and twist. Fat Mario's explanation as to why he enjoys hurting Eldians and just how chill and unsympathetic he is to them because they can just transform into these giant eating monsters, and just that shocking reveal of the Smiling Titan being Grisha's first wife who killed his second wife. Oh my gosh, I mean, talk about dramatic irony right there. At number 12, we have The Attack Titan. Once again, the writing by Isayama was absolutely perfection, particularly the scenes with Grisha and the owl. But the moment that truly blew me away was definitely towards the end, telling Grisha to protect Mikasa and Armin, and this was a huge deal back in the day when I was reading the manga. I love the scene with Hanji telling everyone in the council room that it is in fact the world who was the true enemy. For some reason, it felt way more real and true when Hanji said it. At number 11, we have Wish. Damn, probably Eren's lowest point in the entire show so far. I mean, him just realizing how he thought he was special and was going to do great things, but him just realizing that he's nothing but a vessel, nothing more than a son of a great man. He just was like, damn. None of that should have happened, him going to the Survey Corps. You really do feel bad for Eren, and he does become a slightly different character. He doesn't become that hot-headed dude that wants to kill all the Titans. He's maturing, he's growing up in this scene, and Historia finally calling her own shots and doing what she wants to do instead of what her father wants her to do. Beautiful writing right there, mate. Kenny versus the Squad Levi team was just epic and had beautiful sequences as well. It also has some great character development from Jean and the rest of the gang finally killing people just to protect Aaron. And number 10, Reply. I just love Owen scheming and just him testing these so-called royal government people to see whether or not these dudes will save humanity in a time of a crisis, showing the true colors of these dudes and truly bringing the military and the scouts together as one in a way. It was so damn satisfying seeing the scouts finally being free people towards the end of the episode. At number 9, Ruler of the Wolves. This scene was pretty epic with the fight against the Rodvice Titan. Historia had a beautiful animation sequence in this episode, and I love the little flashback scenes of his memories, and you got this moment of Frida saying she's not going to lose to the ghost of her past, and well, she lost to the ghost of her past, and it's kind of sad and unfortunate. Love the epic badass moment of her standing in front of the crowd, and her little moment with Owen as well, and how Aaron acknowledges Historia as a strong lady. It also has some parallels to episode 1 with the kids looking at the Titan, but it shows us how far these characters have come, and it gives humanity hope that there could be a brighter future compared to the doom and gloom of episode 1. At number 8, we've got the episode Friends. Diving deep into Kenny and Levi's backstory, man, Levi really had it rough even from birth, like dude. But it mainly explores Kenny and Yuri's relationship and friendship, how he doesn't quite understand why this powerful dude would spare Kenny like this, how he finally understood towards the end of the episode that Yuri was a slave to something, probably those memories that he had. I love the way this episode ended with Levi smiling at everyone after being hit by Historia. I think he definitely needed that. At number 7, Descent. I love how this episode truly shows us what happened to Marco way back in season 1, and him having nothing but utter disgust to Marco, calling him a person from this evil race, and then him crying once he's been eaten by the Titan just shows you how warped and messed up and mucked up his brain is after this point. But as well as Reiner having a pretty cool moment, definitely Bertolt, for the first time in the entire show, he's really gotten a character growth moment, how he's just so cool, calm, collective, focusing on the mission, and he seems like a different person, and even Mikasa points that out. I also really like the moment where Bertolt's about to transform into the Colossal Titan, realizing how no one's in the wrong here. He will accept whatever happens to him or the rest of his scout friends, and it just shows you how morally grey these characters are and how there's way more to the story than meets the eye in a way. At number 6, we've got Bystander. We dive deep into Keith Sadis's mind and sort of friendship with Grisha and Carla and the rest of the dudes. And it just shows you how much he absolutely idealizes the idea of feeling special and feeling wanted in the world, how he's been watching great people come and go before him, how despite the great leadership role that he had as the commander of the Zerbe Corps, he wasn't able to change a thing. Carla giving him the line that no one needs to be special because everyone was born into this world. Damn son, those words really hit the heart, man. They hit the feels. Aaron also comes to the realization that he doesn't really know exactly what humanity is fighting against, because Titans are humans, and what does that mean? Who was the real enemy? He's sort of at this crossroad as he's sort of puzzled as to what to do. At number 5, we have Perfect Game. Oh man, this episode really made me like the character of Commander Erwin. Him admitting that him sending a lot of scouts to their graves in a way was so that he can just find answers and to prove his father's theory right, and him just feeling guilt over all the dead scouts who died on his command. You really do feel a little bit torn with this guy, because on one hand you feel bad for him and you really want him to succeed because he's a cool dude, but on the other you kind of hate him in a way for just throwing away scouts' lives without really any remorse in a way. Even Levi felt that way about him in the OVA of No Regrets. Him telling all the new recruits that no matter who they were, whether they were rich or poor, they're gonna die the same way, and it just really ran home to Flock and the rest of those dudes, thinking that their lives were meaningless to begin with, and if they're gonna die this way, what was the point of even being alive in the first place? But damn, that charge to the Beast Titan was just absolutely bloody brilliant. I love how Levi shows so much respect towards Owen, and he seemed really happy that it was Levi of all people to command him to send everyone into hell, even though it was his idea. And number 4, the night of the battle to retake the wall. This episode was probably the last light-hearted episode of AOT in a long time. Everyone just sort of being a little bit chilled and relaxed, getting a lot of season 1 vibes of Aaron versus Jean, and Aaron just finally having that twinkle in his eye. Levi trying to convince Owen to stay behind, but Owen being super reluctant and wants to join the Scouts. Just shows his resolve and his determination to be with them on the day that humanity knows the truth of the wolves. And I do love how it ends with the Survey Corps for the first time in history getting a positive send-off. At number 3, we've got The Other Side of the Sea. What a way to end season 3 on this note of finding out the truth, but also having this looming threat of the world. Even though us as the audience are so happy that Armin got the serum, some of the people in the show are not too keen, and to be honest with you, I do see where they're coming from. Flock is probably one of the most relatable characters because you do see his annoyance and his frustration over the decision of picking Armin over Owen. I also love the moment where Eren tries to reassure Armin that they still got the sea to look forward to and there's still hope. But then he has a flashback of Faye getting eaten by the dogs. And then he has this really interesting inner monologue of what they truly found in that basement, hope or despair, getting those weird memories of Grisha trying to convince the royal family. It shows such a nice positive side of Grisha that I don't think we got to see in the previous flashback. He wasn't this super twisted, deranged man. He did try to convince them to stop the Tigers from hunting down humanity. And then you get this beautiful sea sequence of the gang at the sea. I feel like Wit Studio were like, this is our final episode, let's just go all out on the art, because the art was probably some of the best the show has actually been. The character designs were completely on model and completely on point. The background looked beautiful and lush, and it was just visually appealing to look at. And then Eren, he's the only one in the entire group who's just looking ahead and he's not enjoying the scenery. It's a sort of bittersweet moment where, yeah, they did it. They finally defeated Bertolt. They got that power. They know the truth of the world and they're at the sea having fun. But there's an enemy out there that wants them dead. At number 2, we've got Midnight Sun. Possibly one of the most heartbreaking episodes in the entire show, of Mikasa and Eren trying to beg to Levi to give that serum to their boy Armin, and then Flock comes over arguing his case of why Owen should live. Owen does seem to be the better choice, but then Armin has this hope and light, and I think that's what made Levi choose him, because Owen was so fixated on such a limited goal, but Armin's goal is beyond anyone's comprehension in a way. Hanji also has an interesting moment where I think she's sort of dealing with survivor's guilt. Her wanted to kill Reiner then and there, and even Jean points that out, and how she breaks down to Mikasa explaining how ever since she joined the Scouts she's just been losing friends day after day, and it's great finally seeing a little bit more of Hanji, that human side of her instead of that crazy scientist gal she was. But of course at number 1 we have Hero. And of course Midnight Sun had beautiful, pretty visuals, the backgrounds, the character designs look beautiful in that episode, but Hero is definitely without a doubt the greatest episode of season 3. Zeke having this really interesting line of him feeling so sorry for these Eldians who are just charging towards him, and how much of a tragedy it was that the king erased their memories. Levi coming in, slicing and dicing the beast titan. Some absolutely stellar animation in this one scene. Like, gosh, it looks like they put most of their money into this moment because Levi was moving. Mikasa had a badass moment of blowing up Reiner with the rest of her buddies, and even Armin had his heroic moment. Everyone was a hero in this episode. The volume 1 cover finally came true of Eren slicing the colossal titan. What a satisfying moment. All 3 of the main villains of this sort of arc all defeated at the same time. This episode was just nothing but hype and just beautiful, mate. That's why it's my favorite episode of season 3. But tell me in the comments down below what you guys thought of this ranking. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What's your favorite and least favorite episode of season 3? Tell me. Like, share this video, subscribe for more Attack on Titan reactions, reviews, comparisons, breakdowns, rankings and more. Thank you for watching. Boarded Review signing out.